Hi guys, welcome back. So we've got Wales versus England on Saturday. A great game, always a good occasion, even in these strange times with no fans. It's a shame, but still a great clash. And the sides are looking a bit different actually. Plenty to talk about. Let's talk about Wales first. Well, they're looking on paper pretty strong actually. Probably the strongest they've looked so far in this Six Nations. They're coming off 2 wins, and they still haven't had what I'd call a big performance yet, so they're probably due one of those. So, I think Welsh fans should be pretty optimistic towards this game. Are Wales favourites? Well, I don't know. They don't have the crowd behind them, but on paper, they're looking very strong. I'd probably call it about 50-50 at the moment. The pack is as strong as they can put out. The front five are completely settled, no changes there. In Wyn-Jones, Owens, Francis, Beard and Alan Wyn-Jones, just slowly getting towards his 150th cap. Very settled front five, hard-working, decent in the set piece. But again, they'll be wanting to have a bigger game as well. The back row is the back row I'd wanted at the beginning of the championship for Wales, with Josh Navidi returning. Just strong as an ox, Navidi, good all-rounder, very good over the ball. Complements Tipuric, who's more of a lighter player, playing in the wide areas, absolute genius. And then Faletau is your all-round 8, good at everything. So that's as good as a Welsh pack as they could put out. At half-back, it was interesting. I was going for, in my initial selection, Hardy, and also I'd put Sheedy in at 10. They've gone for one of those changes, which is a pretty big call really, putting Hardy in. Gareth Davis, up to getting towards 50 caps, is only on the bench. Putting Hardy straight in for a massive game like this isn't an experiment as such. It's not saying, well, Davis is our number one, let's put Hardy in, I don't think, because obviously they're going for the Grand Slam here. I think it's saying more, I'm not sure about Davis as our number one, so let's try Hardy. That was kind of my point in the selection anyway. Bigger stays at 10, who's been solid, but probably want a little bit more from him. But the big story is in the centres. Jonathan Davis starts at 12, and that is something that I'd been asking for in the preview shows for the Six Nations, saying that Jonathan Davis, slowing down a bit maybe as he gets a little bit older, his career could be extended by moving him in 1 to 12, and they've got lots of options at 13 anyway, one of them being George North, who's had a good championship so far. Incredibly physical unit there in defence, in attack. In defence, will George North get caught out less by having the experience and the defensive genius of Jonathan Davis inside him? Maybe. And the back three is probably their most dangerous back three they could put out. Halfpenny's been okay, but he's been caught out a few times, and I think he's not available through concussion. So Josh Adams comes back straight back in with Louis Rees-Zammit, so probably their most dangerous running wingers, and then the classy Liam Williams slotting back into fullback. It's looking really good on paper. What do you guys think? On the bench we have Hill. That's what I meant to say. Corey Hill covering second row. Same front row replacements. James Botham covering the back row. Is Wainwright injured? I don't know, but that's a bit of a snub for him if he isn't. Then, like I said, Gareth Davis drops to the bench. Sheedy as well covering 10. And Halaholo, I think, is a good call as their backs replacement, a proper impact sub. So I like this Welsh team. Let me know what you guys think of it. So on to the England team. It's not the England team I would have selected, as I have done in my previous videos, but it's certainly the one that we were kind of expecting Eddie Jones to select, sticking with his tried and tested guys, the ones he has faith in, even though some of them haven't been playing that well. And also a real surprise inclusion on the bench as well, but we'll get into that in a second. So front row, he's staying with Maka Vunipola. I was worried about him icing his Achilles after the game last week, the last time out, but he's sticking with him, so I'm assuming he's fit. So if he is fully fit, that's fantastic news. Jamie George had a quiet game in the first game of the Six Nations. He needs to prove a point, with Cowan Dickey probably deserving the start on performance from against Italy. Carl Sinclair, I think we're on for a big performance from him. He's back in the team. He was looking good last time out. So those three need a big performance, and they've got it in them. It's whether they can obviously pull it out of the bag. Itoje and Hill carry on as a second row partnership, and I like this partnership. It's growing, it's getting time together. Very happy with that. What I'm less happy with, though, is in the back row. I think what they would have done is have Laws at 6, but he injured himself in training, so they brought in Wilson at 6. And not that Wilson's not a solid player, but wouldn't it be better having Curry at 6 and Ben Earl at 7? That's just far more exciting. It just seems a little bit of a defensive team, not particularly ambitious. But Curry at 7, who's been working really hard, but hasn't really imposed himself on the game. And Billy Villapola, who we've spoken about ad nauseum on this channel, he needs a big performance. Huge faith shown in him by Eddie Jones, and he needs a big performance. Let's see if he can give one. Plenty of impact from the bench as normal. Front row impact I really like with Karen Dickey, Genge and Stewart. But they've gone for this 6-2 split, and I'm not sure why. Yules covers second row. He's a solid second row, a bit uninspiring, but solid enough. They've got Ben Earl there as well, covering the back row, but then they've gone for George Martin as well. Not that George Martin is a bad player, but he's incredibly young. There's other players who would have bigger impact, Sam Simmons, Don Brandt, etc. He could well be a second row for the future for England, I believe. In a few years' time, second row could be his place in the England squad. But to come straight in on the bench with a 6-2 split seems odd. I can only really see that he's covering 6, and they don't think that Ben Earl or Yules covers 6 well enough. I'm not sure. It's a very strange game that Jones is playing here. Anyway, Robson and Malin's completing the bench. He's not the way round I'd have had it. There's a lot of pressure on this side. If they perform well, we've got to say hats off, fair enough. Jones knew they had it in the bag. They could pull it out when it was needed. If they play poorly again, then there's going to be a lot of questions to ask, to answer even. And as an England fan, obviously I'm getting behind the team, but still, on paper, I would like the look of the Welsh side more. But let me know what you think. Is Jones made a shocker in this selection, or do you think him sticking with the guys that he knows so well is going to pay off? We'll see in the game, but there's definitely questions here, more on the English side than the Welsh side. That being said, I hate the English going into these Wales games thinking they're going to win as clear favourites in their heads. I want them to feel under the pump a bit, because Wales often raise their game to play the English. And I don't want England going in overconfident, and I do not think they will be in this game. They know they have to perform. I'm calling it 50-50. It's going to be exciting. Let me know what you think of the teams and how you think the game is going to go. And I will catch you next time.